When we spoke earlier, you made a comment that the entire trajectory was wrong. Um, would you care to comment on that now? I mean, are you saying that the approach that Latvia has taken for the last
What happened in 1991 was like genetic engineering. You come and you sort of change the genetic makeup of a animal or a plant, and you try to make it survive. Latvia had certain flaws that were guaranteed to make it die very quickly. One flaw, the idea is when you're creating an organism, you want it to survive efficiently. They created Latvia as the most inefficient possible economy. If you were trying to create an economy where everything went wrong and you had a crisis, Latvia was the way to do it. And for a number of reasons. Number one, they had probably the worst tax system in the world. No country in the world, no democracy in the world has ever had a flat tax. Before Latvians even begin to produce any goods and services, they're burdened. It's like they're carrying a huge burden on their back that no workers anywhere else in the world have to carry. So it's a handicap that a jockey would wear in a horse race. It's an extra burden they have with the tax. In America and the whole progressive era at the beginning of the 20th century, the ideal of taxes, nobody likes taxes, but the least bad tax is a kind of tax that does not add to price. And that kind of tax is a tax on what's called economic rent. It's a tax on the land value or monopoly super profits. If you would have had the tax falling on houses in real estate, then the rental value of real estate would have gone to pay the taxes that labor now pays. Workers would have had to pay a lot less. Homeowners would have had to pay a lot less. If you would have taxed real estate instead of labor, housing prices wouldn't have gone up. Housing prices would have remained stable, and they should have remained stable for Latvian. There's no reason that housing prices and rent prices today shouldn't be as low as they were in 1991. The reason that they've gone up is that the Latvian government has not done what other governments do and tax property, but they've left all of this property tax-free. So people are paying higher rents because they have enough money to afford higher rents, but the higher rents are all being paid to the bank. They're in the form of interest rates that are used to bid up property. A house or a building is worth whatever a bank will lend. And the more money that the tax collector gives up, the more revenue is available to be capitalized into a large loan by a bank to lend out. And so the banks have bid up the price of housing, and what is untaxed there, the government has had to make up this failure to tax real estate by going and taxing labor and making it uncompetitive. So at the same time the tax system puts workers out of work, it raises their cost of housing. So Latvians have to pay a very high income tax, and they have to pay a very high cost for housing. And you put these two, rent and interest and housing together, and there's such a high price before they even break even and buy their food, before they buy the car, before they buy the furniture, before they pay for clothing. They already have to pay such a high amount of money that no matter how little they're paid, they can't compete in the world markets. So the tax system that was brought to Latvia was basically designed to prevent it from competing. It's as if Europe and the neoliberals and the advisors said, we want Latvia to be a market for our exports. We want Latvians to be a market for our banks. We don't want them to compete. We don't want Latvians to produce goods and services. We want to produce the goods and services to sell to the Latvians, and we want to make sure that they've crippled their economy, and we've designed a neoliberal tax plan that makes sure that they go through life crippled, and they'll always need us to enable them to live, and if they don't borrow from us, they'll die or they'll emigrate. That's the system that was put in, and sure enough, Latvians are emigrating because they can't have work here. They've let themselves be crippled by the European advisors. And the crisis will come when they decide that they don't want to be crippled, and when they decide to do what was originally promised, to have the same living standards that were in Europe, and to have a European-style social democracy, and have the kind of laws that you have in Europe and North America.
I